I believe we went over 9, 10. We've been over 9, 10, chapter 9, chapter 10, chapter 11, and chapter 12 in 2 Kings. So today will be yes. Chapter 13 and chapter 14. Chapter 14 is pretty long, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and send the prayers up. This Kings chapter 13. So just to kind of debrief us on what was going on in previous chapters, let's actually go back a little bit. So 2 Kings 11, Athaliah took rulership, which is I say queen, but I hate to say queen. She was a daughter of Ahab and Jezebel. So with Jehu, let's get it. 2 Kings chapter 12, verse. I'm sorry, chapter 11. Chapter 11. 2 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. It says, and when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the seed royal. So Athaliah, who was the mother of Ahab and Jezebel, took the throne after her son Ahaziah died, right? Which was, of course, evil as hell, as she started to kill the seed of the kings to keep rulership. So she ends up dying. And then under Jehoiada the priest. And so Joash comes up in rulership. All right, chapter 12. Joash ends up paying off Hazael, which was a captain over the army of the Syrians, to not destroy Jerusalem. So chapter 13, Jehoaz comes up in rulership, who's a king over the northern kingdom, and he keeps the same trend as his forefathers did in the northern kingdom. Let me turn this fan on real quick. He keeps the same, he keeps up the same evil as his forefathers did, Jeroboam, son of Nebat. All right, so they were building the temple back up. We read Exodus 30 because Athaliah came in and she started to damage the temple. Damage the house of the Lord. So chapter 13. Now we're in, so we can go ahead and get started. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 1. It says, in the 23rd year of Joash, the son of Ahaziah, king of Judah, Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, began to reign over Israel in Samaria and reigned 17 years. So he was a king over the northern kingdom. It says reign over Israel in Samaria. Samaria is the capital city of the northern kingdom. All right. And he did, verse 2, and he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, and followed the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he delivered them into the hand of Hazael, king of Syria, and into the hand of Benadab, the son of Hazael, all their days. So they end up getting their behinds whooped, and the Most High delivered the northern kingdom into the hands of the Syrians under Hazael, king of Syria, and Benadab, the son of Hazael. All right, verse 4. And Jehoahaz besought the Lord, and the Lord hearkened unto him, for he saw the oppression of Israel, because the king of Syria oppressed them. And the Lord gave Israel a savior, so that they went out from under the hand of the Syrians. The children of Israel dwelt in their tents as before time. Verse 6. Nevertheless, they departed not from the sins of the house of Jeroboam, who made Israel sin, but walked therein. And there remained the grove also in Samaria. So it's crazy how, even though the Most High sent them a Savior to deliver them out of the hands of the Syrians, he said, verse 6, nevertheless, they departed not from the sins of the house of Jeroboam. That's why the Most High say we are stubborn, stiff-necked, rebellious people that don't want to hear the law of the Lord. Israel, we wax fat, we kick, what else does it say? Yeah, we stubborn, rebellious, stiff-necked, hard-hearted, uncircumcised in heart. We rebellious. Because even after the Most High saved them from the Syrians, they still went back and did the same sins that they was doing before. They were still dealing with the same idolatry that they was before. Hey, shalom, Periscope. Watch this. Let's read on. Verse 7. Neither did he leave of the people to Jehoahaz but 50 horsemen and 10 chariots and 10,000 footmen. For the king of Syria had destroyed them and had made them like the dust by threshing. Meaning he destroyed them till there was almost nothing left of the northern kingdom. All right. It says, now the rest of the acts of Jehoahaz and all that he did and his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? Which is why I say the book of Chronicles is the same history in Kings. Excuse me, just certain details are more. You have more details on certain things. All right, verse 9. And Jehoahaz slept with his father, and they buried him in Samaria. And Joash, his son, reigned in his stead. In the 37th year of Joash, king of Judah, began Jehoash, the son of Jehoaz, to reign over Israel in Samaria, and reigned 16 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from all the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel sin, but he walked therein. So the northern kingdom, it was king after king after king after king, continue to walk in the ways of their forefather, Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. And none of them did right. There were no good kings in Israel. There was not one. That's why we keep reading, he did evil in the sight of the Lord. These are all the kings of the northern kingdom. But the kings of the southern kingdom said they would do right in the sight of the Lord. All right, verse let's read on verse 11. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from all the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel sin, but he walked therein. And the rest of the acts of Joash and all that he did and his might wherewith he fought against Amaziah, king of Judah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? And Joash, and we'll read that in a minute. And Joash slept with his fathers, and Jeroboam sat upon his throne. And Joash was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. Watch this. Hold this. Let's go to 2 Chronicles so we can get some more detail as far as what happened between Amaziah and Joash. 2 Chronicles chapter 25, and let's start at verse yeah, we can go ahead and go to 2 Chronicles chapter 25, verse let's not get it yet. Let's not get it yet. And I'm sorry, I completely skipped a step. Do I got a brother to scribe for me? Do I got a brother that's able to scribe for me? If not, I'll hop on it myself. Okay. All right. So for right now, let's stay in 2 Chronicles 13. I'll get 2 Kings 13. I'm gonna get Chronicles in a minute. I want to wait on that. So right now we're in 2 Chronicles 13. All right. I'm gonna wait on Chronicles. All right, I'm gonna read verse 14. 2 Kings 13, verse 14. It says, "Now Elisha was fallen sick of his sickness, whereof he died. And Joash, the king of Israel, came down unto him, and wept over his face, and said, O my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And Elisha said unto him, Take bow and arrows. And he took unto him bow and arrows. And he said to the king of Israel, Put thine hand upon the bow. And he put his hand upon it. And Elisha put his hands upon the king's hands. And he said, Open the window eastward. So Elisha told Joash to take a bow. It says bow, but bow and arrow. And he said, look out the window, face eastward. All right. And he says, verse 17, and he said, Open the window eastward. And he opened it. And he opened it. Then Elisha said, Shoot. And he shot. And he said, The arrow of the Lord's deliverance, and the arrow of deliverance from Syria, for thou shalt smite the Syrians in Aphek, till thou have consumed them. So this is a prophecy of the northern kingdom coming back and destroying the Syrians. All right. And as we we'll see what actually happened. And was that the case? Verse 18. Verse 18, and he said, Take the arrows, and he took them, and he said unto the king of Israel, Smite upon the ground, and he smote thrice and stayed. So he shot the arrow 3 times. Elisha didn't tell him how many times to shoot. He just shot it 3. He only shot it 3 times. And verse 19, and the man of God was wroth with him. So Elisha got pissed. He was like, let's see why. It says, and the man of God was wroth with him and said, Thou shouldest have smitten 5 or 6 times. He said, you should have shot the arrow 5 or 6 times. Then hast thou smitten Syria till thou hast consumed it. Whereas now thou shalt smite Syria but thrice. So he said, you would have consumed the Syrians. You would have destroyed the Syrians if you had shot 5 or 6 times. But since you only shot it 3 times, you only gonna win 3 times. You only gonna defeat them 3 times. Verse 20, and Elisha died, and they buried him. And the bands of the Moabites invaded the land at the coming in of the year. So around Passover, the Moabites started to invade Samaria. Verse 21, and it came to pass as they were burying a man, that behold, they spied a band of men, and they cast the man into the sepulchre of Elisha. And when the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood up on his feet. So that's crazy in and of itself. I'm going to read verse 20 again. And Elisha died, and they buried him. And the bands of the Moabites, the bands of the armies of the Moabites, invaded the land at the coming in of the year. And it came to pass, as they were burying a man, that behold, they spied a band of men, or an army of men. And they cast the man into the sepulchre of Elisha. So the man that they were getting ready to bury, in the same sepulchre as Elisha, once they saw the band of men coming, they just dropped the brother in. They didn't lower him down. They just dropped him in. And he ended up reviving. It says he revived. It says, and when the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood up on his feet. That's a healing power for you. When you touching the bones of somebody and they end up coming back to life, reviving, it's crazy. Verse 22, it says, but Hazael, king of Syria, oppressed Israel all the days of Jehoahaz. And the Lord was gracious unto them. And had compassion on them and had respect unto them because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and would not destroy them, neither cast he them from his presence as yet. So Hazael, king of Syria, died, and Benadad his son reigned in his stead. And Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, took again out of the hand of Benadad, the son of Hazael, the cities which he had taken out of the hand of Jehoaz his father by war. 3 times did Joash beat him, and recovered the cities of Israel, which was Hamath and Damascus, which were the coasts. And when we read in Chronicles, you'll see that by war, they took those cities back. All right. From there, let's go to... Now, let's go to Chronicles. Let's read Chronicles first, and then we'll come back to 2 Kings 14. 2 Chronicles chapter 25 and verse 1. And the reason why I want to go here is because it's going to give us more detail on King Amaziah. Because when you read 2 Kings, I'll read it real quick. 2 Kings chapter 14, verse 1. In the second year of Joash, hold on. In the second year of Joash, son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel, reigned Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah. All right. So in the second year of Joash, son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel, reigned Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah. So that's what we're getting ready to read about in 2 Chronicles 25, about Amaziah. All right. 2 Chronicles. All right. 2 Chronicles chapter 25, verse 1. Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jehoiadan of Jerusalem. He did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, but not with a perfect heart. Meaning, so for those that are new, it said not with a perfect heart. It's not talking about the organ pumping in your chest. Watch this. Mark chapter 7. Let's see what the heart is. Mark chapter 7 and verse 21. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts. So when it's talking about your heart in the Bible, it's talking about your mind. That's what the heart is. The heart is your mind. That was Mark chapter 7, verse 21. Let's go back. 2 Chronicles chapter 25, verse 2 Chronicles chapter 25 and verse 3. It says, now it came to pass when the kingdom was established to him that he slew his servants that had killed the king his father. But he slew not their children, but did as it is written in the law of the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, saying, the father shall not die for the children, neither shall the children die for the fathers, but every man shall die for his own sin. So let's see what that law of Moses, what that law is in the law of Moses. Hold this, go to Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 16. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 16. Let's read in the law of Moses what the law is. Deuteronomy chapter 24 and verse 16. It says, the father shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. So that's the law, is I'm not going to be put to death for my father committing adultery, or my father won't be put to death because the child committed murder. Every man and every woman is going to have to stand before the Most High and be responsible for their own sin. That's why it says in the New Testament, even under the New Covenant, same thing, nothing changed. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 12. Philippians chapter 2, verse 12. Let me get it real quick. Let me type this in real quick. Philippians chapter 2, verse 12. It says, wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Why? Because every man and every woman is going to have to stand for the Most High for themselves. So you're going to be punished for your sins, and your parents, mama, daddy, auntie, uncle, whoever, they're going to be punished for their own sins or rewarded for their own righteousness. Either way. But for history's sake, the law was every man and every woman, every father and every son, you were responsible for your own sins. So you weren't going to be put to death for what your father did, and the child won't be put to death for what the father did. The father would be put to death for what the child did. All right, so 2 Chronicles 25 and verse 5. Moreover, Amaziah gathered Judah together and made them captains over thousands and captains over hundreds, according to the houses of their fathers throughout all Judah and Benjamin. And he numbered them from 20 years old and above, and found them 300,000 choice men able to go forth to war that could handle spear and shield. So at this time, King Amaziah is putting an army together. All right, hold this. Go back to 2 Kings. Hold that. Go back to 2 Kings, chapter 14. So we read in 2 Chronicles 25 that Amaziah put an army together. All right, so now we back in 2 Kings, chapter 14, and we'll start at verse 1. In the second year of Joash, son of Jehoaz, king of Israel, reigned Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jehoaddan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, yet not like David his father. He did according to all things as Joash his father did. Howbeit the high places were not taken away, as yet the people did sacrifice and burnt incense on the high places. And it came to pass, as soon as the kingdom was confirmed in his hand, that he slew his servants which had slain the king his father, which is what we read back in chapter 12. All right. But verse 6, but the children of the murderers he slew not, according unto that which is written in the book of the law of Moses, wherein the Lord commanded, saying, the fathers shall not be put to death for the children, nor the children be put to death for the fathers, but every man shall be put to death for his own sin. Which is what we just read, which is why I say the history parallels in Second Chronicles. We're still going to go through First and Second Chronicles because there are going to be some details that we missed in whenever I picked up in 2 Kings 9 earlier. So we're still going to go back to Second Chronicles to fill in some of the details. But we'll do that later. Verse 7, he slew of Edom in the valley of Salt 10,000 and took Selah by war and called the name of it Joktheel unto this day. So now remember, he gathered this army together. Amaziah gathered an army together. All right. What did he gather that army together for? Verse 7. He slew of Edom in the valley of Salt 10,000 to go to war with Edom, the Edomites, the so-called white man today. All right. Let's go back to 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles chapter 25. Let's read verse 5 again. So again, whenever we read through 2 Kings, it's not giving us the full details on that war that they had with Edom. So 2 Chronicles 25 is giving us the more detail as to why Amaziah put the army together. 2 Chronicles chapter 25 and verse 5. 2 Chronicles 25 and 5. Moreover, Amaziah gathered Judah together and made them captains over thousands. Captains over thousands and captains over hundreds, according to the houses of their fathers throughout all Judah and Benjamin. And he numbered them from 20 years old and above, and found them 300,000 choice men able to go forth to war that could handle spear and shield. So he said from 20 years old and above. Hold this. Let's go to Numbers. Because remember, he's putting an army together. So in the military, under the law of Moses, it was very specific as far as who could be a part of the army. This is Numbers chapter 1 and verse, let's start at verse 1. Numbers chapter 1, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation, on the first day of the second month, in the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt. Saying, take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls, from 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel. Thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. So in the nation of Israel, you are considered a man or an adult at 20 years old, because that was the age that the scripture says you were able to go to war. All right, that's when it says you were an able man. So according to the Bible, you are a man at 20 years old, not 18 years old or 17 or 19 or 19 and a half or whatever. The scripture says you can go to war at 20 years old, so that's the age that you're considered a man. All right, that was Numbers chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. All right, let's go back to 2 Chronicles. So just to bring out why it said from 20 years old and upward. 2 Chronicles chapter 25, let's read back at verse 6. 2 Chronicles chapter 25, verse 6. He hired also 100,000 mighty men of valor out of Israel for 100 talents of silver. So Amaziah hired men of the northern kingdom, men of valor out of the northern kingdom, and he paid them, it says, 100 talents of silver. So he paid them to be in his he paid the northern kingdom to be in his military. As we read on, we're going to see read some more history. Remember, this is history that isn't written in Kings. You would have to go to Chronicles in order to get it. Verse 7. But there came a man of God to him, saying to Amaziah, O king, let not the army of Israel go with thee. So this man of God came to Amaziah and said, don't have the northern kingdom fighting with you. Don't have the northern kingdom fighting in your army. It says, for the Lord is not with Israel, to wit, meaning as it is with all the children of Israel. Of Ephraim, excuse me. I'm going to read that again. But there came a man of God to him, saying, O king, let not the army of Israel go with thee, for the Lord is not with Israel, to wit, with all the children of Ephraim. So the Most High wasn't dealing with the northern kingdom like that. So he said, don't let the northern kingdom fight with you. Verse 8, but if thou wilt go, do it, be strong for the battle. God shall make thee fall before the enemy, for God hath power to help and to cast down. When we read on, we're going to see who that enemy was. He said, but if thou wilt go, do it, be strong for the battle. So he said, yeah, all right, well, if you still going to have them in your army, if you still going to let them fight, just remember that the Most High is able to make you stand or fall, and he'll cast you down before your enemy. Verse 9, and Amaziah said to the man of God, but what shall we do for the 100 talents which I have given to the army of Israel? So he concerned about the money at this point. He said, so what am I going to do with this money that I done already paid him? Middle of verse 9. And the man of God answered, the Lord is able to give thee much more than this. So the Most High said, I'll give you way more than that. Just do what I said and don't deal with the northern kingdom like that. Don't have them in your army. Just do what I said. Verse 10. Then Amaziah separated them, to wit, the army that was come to him out of Ephraim, to go home again. So Amaziah ended up listening briefly, and he told the northern kingdom, hey, y'all can't fight with me, so y'all go ahead and go back home. Wherefore their anger was greatly kindled against Judah, and they returned home in great anger. So they was pissed that he paid them this money to fight, and they ended up having to go home. Remember, these are men of valor. These are men of war. These are men that were fit for the battle, that were ready to go to war. And now you're telling me to go back home? Excuse me. Cottonmouth, excuse me. So now you're telling them that they got to go back home now. After you just paid them this money, you just had them walking from Samaria to the southern kingdom, and now you tell them to go back home. So they was pissed. Verse 11, and Amaziah strengthened himself and led forth his people, and went to the valley of Salt, and smote of the children of Seir 10,000. So remember what we read in 2 Kings. 2 Kings chapter 14, excuse me. Can you talk? 2 Kings chapter 14, verse 7. They said Seir. No different, same thing. 2 Kings 14 and 7. He slew of Edom or Seir in the valley of Salt 1,000, and took Selah by war, and called the name of it Joktheel unto this day. 2 Chronicles 25 and 11. And Amaziah strengthened himself and led forth his people, and went to the valley of Salt, and smote of the children of Seir 10,000. So I don't want y'all to get confused by Seir, even though it says in 2 Kings 14, Edom. Edom dwelt in Mount Seir. All right, that's why it says Seir. Verse 12, 2 Chronicles 25 and 12. And other 10,000, verse 12. And other 10,000 left alive did the children of Judah carry away captive. So the other 10,000 of Edom that they left alive, they carried them away as captives. They kept them as slaves and brought them unto the top of the rock. So they took them up to a mountain and cast them down from the top of the rock, that they all were broken in pieces. So Amaziah's army killed 10,000 off top of Edom, the so-called white man. The other 10,000 that they did not kill, they kept them alive as captives. They walked them up to the rock, which is the top of a mountain, and they threw them down. It says, and brought them up unto the top of the rock, and cast them down from the top of the rock, that they all were broken in pieces. 10,000 red people, or what today you would call them white people, at the bottom of the rocks, smashed in pieces. That's the kind of men that that we were at that time. That's the kind of warlike mentality that we had at that time. They're going to say all praises, yeah, all praises, man. That's crazy. That history. That's the kind of history that we don't get. A lot of times, that's why the scripture says, man, where is that? Job. Hold up. Job chapter 8, verse 8. Job chapter 8, verse 8. It says, for inquire, I pray thee, of the former age. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. Because we got to understand what our forefathers did, what our forefathers went through, the wars that our forefathers fought. We wasn't always, we weren't always slaves. That's what you get a lot. That's what you get in history, in the history books, in school, in 5th grade history class. We came over here, like today they're saying, we came over here as indentured servants or whatever. Our forefathers were men of valor. Our forefathers were men of war. And the Most High put that spirit on us because he had that same spirit. Watch this. Hold this. Exodus. Exodus chapter 15. Hold on. Let me find it. Before I call it, let me find it. Exodus. Exodus 15 and 3. Exodus chapter 15, verse 3. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. So if the Most High is a man of war, what kind of fear do you think he put on the children of Israel who are his firstborn? Because a lot of times you get certain traits or attributes from your parents. Watch this. Exodus chapter 4. Exodus chapter 4. In verse 22, I'm going off my notes a little bit, but I'm trying to exhort y'all for y'all to understand, how the Most High, what kind of spirit the Most High put in us based on the spirit that he has, based on how he deals. Exodus chapter 4 and verse 22. And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. So guess what? The Most High, we took on the attributes of our father, and we were men of war. So there wasn't no mercy or nothing like that. We took Edom. We killed 10,000 of them. The other 10,000, we took them as captives. We took them up to the top of a rock, threw them down, and they broke in pieces. So I'm just trying to exhort y'all's spirit to understand that history. A lot of times for most of us, we've never even heard that we actually fought against Edom and won wars against Edom. Now, don't get me wrong. We in the condition that we in, and the Most High still dealt with us harshly and used them to deal with us harshly. But there were times in history, like we're reading now, where we did fight against them and won. Let's go back. 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles chapter 25, verse 13. 2 Chronicles chapter 25 and verse 13. We'll get that in a minute. All right, let's go. Verse 13. But the soldiers of the army which Amaziah sent back, that they should not go with him to battle, fell upon the cities of Judah from Samaria even unto Betharon. So those men that Amaziah sent back to Samaria and said, don't fight with us, they ended up coming back to Jerusalem. It says, fell upon the cities of Judah from Samaria even unto Betharon, and smote 3,000 of them and took much spoil. So I'm going to read that again. 2 Chronicles chapter 25, verse 13. But the soldiers of the army which Amaziah sent back, that they should not go with him to battle, fell upon the cities of Judah, from Samaria even unto Betharon, and smote 3,000 of them, and took much spoil. So the northern kingdom went over to the southern kingdom, these certain men that Amaziah paid off, and they killed 3,000 people from the tribe of Judah, from the southern kingdom, and they started to rob them. They started to steal. Verse 14. That's what it means. Spoil just means rob or steal, or take what's not yours. Verse 14. Now it came to pass after that Amaziah come from the slaughter of the Edomites, that he brought the gods of the children of Seir and set them up to be his gods, and bowed down himself before them and burned incense unto them. So it baffles me that this brother went to war against Edom, won, and then he ends up bringing their gods back. He ends up bringing their gods back like they're spoils of war. I mean, all praises that, he won the war, but he was crazy as I don't know what to bring their gods back. It was something I wanted. Hold this. Hold this. Let me find something real quick. Let's get Joshua. Is that what I want? Hold on. Let me see. Let me make sure that's what I want. Let me make sure that this is what I want. Joshua. I think I want the one in Judges. Hold on real quick. Yeah, let's get that one. Joshua chapter 23, verse 12. Joshua chapter 23 and verse 12. Actually, let's get the law first. Keep that whole list in Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7. And verse 23. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 23. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 23. But the Lord thy God shall deliver them unto thee, and shall destroy them with a mighty destruction until they be destroyed. And he shall deliver their kings into thine hand, and thou shalt deliver their name from under heaven. There shall no man be able to stand before thee until thou have destroyed them. He's talking about the other nations when they were coming into the land of Israel. The graven images of their gods burn fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it unto thee, lest thou be snared therein. For it is an abomination to the Lord thy God. Neither shalt thou bring an abomination into thine house, lest thou be a cursed thing like it. But thou shalt utterly detest it, and thou shalt utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. So guess what? King Amaziah brought a cursed thing into the house when he went and he brought the gods of the Edomites back to Jerusalem. So that's all I wanted. You can drop Joshua, drop Judges. Let's go back to 2 Chronicles. So he said it was a cursed thing. Yeah, that fool was, yeah, he was a Judite. Yeah, he was Judah. Yep. That's why I said his heart wasn't right with the Lord. That's what we read earlier. His heart wasn't right with the Lord. Verse 15. 2 Chronicles 25 and 15. Yeah. Second Chronicles 25 and 15. Wherefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against Amaziah, and he sent unto him a prophet, which said unto him, Why hast thou sought after the gods of the people, which could not deliver their own people out of thine hand? So this is a cut. He said, Yo, why the hell did you bring their gods back, and their gods couldn't even save them from the destruction that you just put on? Like, how does that? That's how simple we can be sometimes. Like, their God couldn't save them from their own destruction, but you bringing it back. You bringing it back to Jerusalem. You bringing it back to the southern kingdom. That don't make sense. Whoo, hold this. Deuteronomy chapter 8. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 11. So they got all the spoils from Seir. Hold on, I'm sorry. Let's see why the Lord's anger was kindled. We read Deuteronomy 7, 23 through the end of the chapter. Now we're going to read Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 11. Chapter 28, verse 11. It says, Beware that thou forget not the Lord thy God in not keeping his commandments and his judgments and his statutes, which I command thee this day. Lest when thou hast eaten and art full, and hast built goodly houses and dwelt therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all that thou hast is multiplied, then thine heart be lifted up, and thou forget the Lord thy God, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who led thee through that great and terrible wilderness, wherein were fiery serpents, and scorpions, and drought, where there was no water, who brought thee forth water out of the rock of flint, who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers knew not, that he might humble thee, and that he might prove thee to do thee good at thy latter end. And thou say in thine heart, my power and the might of my hand hath gotten me this way. Unless you say, yo, by my hands, I put the army together, so I'm taking the spoils, and it was all because of me. It was because of my army. It was because of my military power. That's what he said. He said, don't say that. Don't say verse 17, and thou say in thine heart, my power and the might of mine hand hath gotten me this woe. But verse 18, but thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant with thee, his covenant which he sware unto thy fathers as it is this day. And it shall be, if thou do at all forget the Lord thy God, and walk after other gods, and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day that ye shall surely perish. As the nations which the Lord destroyed before your face, so shall ye perish, because ye would not be obedient unto the voice of the Lord your God. So that's the reason why the Most High, his anger was kindled against Amaziah. It says, because he walked after other gods, like it says in verse 19, because he walked after other gods. So write that down as a little note. Deuteronomy chapter 8. The point is verse 19, but I started at verse 11. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 19. That's the reason why the Most High's anger was kindled against Amaziah. We read 11 through 20. Let's go back to 2 Kings 14, but we'll read it next week, Lord's will. Because 14 and then going to 15 is just a lot of history. It's a lot of history because we're moving into the moving into the Syrian captivity. All right. So it's just going to be a lot of history. So we may not even finish the chapters. Let's go back to Chronicles. 2 Chronicles chapter 25, verse 15. 2 Chronicles 25 and 15. Wherefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against Amaziah, and he sent unto him a prophet, which said unto him, Why hast thou sought after the gods of the people, which could not deliver their own people out of thine hand? And it came to pass, as he talked with him, that like I say, whoever was on before didn't log out. So if they don't log out, it'll just keep running, and then of course, it expired on me. So I'm actually getting short on time. So all praises. All right, so I'm gonna read verse 16 again. And it came to pass as he talked with him, as this man of God came to Amaziah, this prophet came to Amaziah and said, it came to pass as he talked with him that the king said unto him, Art thou made of the king's counsel? So you're part of my normal counsel? Forbear. So he told him to shut up, stop talking. Why shouldest thou be smitten? So why should you die because you talking out of turn or talking out of your place? Then the prophet forbare and said, I know that God hath determined to destroy thee because thou hast done this and hast not hearkened unto my counsel. Verse 17. So he said, because you didn't listen to my counsel when I told you, when I told you not to bring the gods back, It said the Most High determined to destroy you. Like we read in the law in Deuteronomy 7 and Deuteronomy 8, verse 11 through 20. And Amaziah, king of Judah, took advice and sent to Joash, the son of Jehoaz, the son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, "Come, let us see one another in the face." Hold this. Let's go back to 2 Kings. So now we picking up in 2 Kings chapter 14 and verse 8. 2 Kings chapter 14, verse 8. 2 Kings chapter 14, verse 8. It says, "Then Amaziah sent messengers to Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, Come, let us look one another in the face. And Jehoash, the king of Israel, sent to Amaziah, king of Judah, saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, Give thy daughter to my son to wife. And there passed by a wild beast that was in Lebanon and trode down the thistle." So basically, the northern kingdom is getting ready to fight against the southern kingdom. All right, that's what's about to happen. Let's go back to 2 Chronicles 25. 2 Chronicles 25. And verse 17. Then Amaziah, 2 Chronicles 25, 17. Then Amaziah, king of Judah, took advice and sent to Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, Come, let us see one another in the face. So he said, let's speak face to face. Verse 18. And Joash, king of Israel, sent to Amaziah, king of Judah, saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, Give thy daughter to my son to wife. And there passed by a wild beast that was in Lebanon and trode down the thistle. Thou sayest, Lo, thou hast smitten the Edomites, and thine heart lifted thee up to boast. Abide now at home. So he said, you went and fought against the Edomites, you won, and so now you puffed up. Now you puffed up and you prideful and can't nobody tell you nothing. It says, Abide now at home. Why shouldst thou meddle to thine hurt, that thou shouldest fall, even thou and Judah with thee? So Joash said, don't you getting puffed up. It says, he said, stay home. It said, abide now at home. Why shouldest thou meddle to thine hurt? Why are you going to come over here and start to try to pick a fight to your own hurt and end up getting yourself hurt? That thou shouldest fall, even thou and Judah with thee, so that the whole southern kingdom end up falling. Verse 20. But Amaziah would not hear. There go Amaziah being stiff-necked and rebellious and stubborn and puffed up. He's like, I just beat the Edomites. You don't think I can fight you too? You don't think I can win against you too? But Amaziah would not hear, for it came of God that he might deliver them into the hand of their enemies, because they sought after the gods of Edom. Remember, we read that back in verse excuse me. Hold on, let me find it real quick. Go back to 2 Chronicles 25 and 8. 2 Chronicles 25 and 8. But if thou wilt go, do it. Be strong for the battle. God shall make thee fall before the enemy, for God hath power to help and to cast down. So the enemy that he was talking about, let's go back to verse 20. But Amaziah would not hear, for it came of God that he might deliver them into the hand of their enemies, because they sought after the gods of Edom. So because that they sought after the gods of Edom, the enemies that they fell before was the northern kingdom. The northern kingdom. As we read on, watch this. We're going to read on verse 21. So Joash, the king of Israel, went up, and they saw one another in the face, both he and Amaziah, king of Judah, at Beth-Shemesh, which is southwest of Jerusalem, which belongeth to Judah. And Judah was put to worse before Israel, and they fled every man to his tent. So Judah, northern kingdom, Ephraim, they went and they put Judah to flight. They put the southern kingdom to flight. So those enemies that Christ read about, this is another precept that you can use for the enemies that Christ is talking about in Matthew 25. Matthew chapter 25. It's not Matthew 25. Matthew's 5. Is it Matthew's 5? Matthew's chapter 5, verse 43. Matthew's chapter 5 and verse 43. And 44. Ye have heard that it hath been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies. It's not talking about the enemies of the other nations. It's talking about the enemies of your people. The enemies of your people. In this verse, and back in 2 Chronicles, the enemies is talking about the enemies of your people. 2 Chronicles, go back to Chronicles. 2 Chronicles 25 and 22 again. And Judah was put to the worse before Israel, or the southern kingdom was put to worse by the northern kingdom, and they fled every man to his tent. And Joash, verse 23, 2 Chronicles 25, 23. And Joash, the king of Israel, took Amaziah, king of Judah, the son of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, at Beth-Shemesh, and brought him to Jerusalem, and brake down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate 400 cubits. When it says the gate of Ephraim, it's just talking about the side of the wall of Jerusalem that faced Ephraim, which was north. To the corner gate 400 cubits. So Jehoahaz brought Amaziah back to Jerusalem, tore down the wall in Jerusalem, that the side that faced Ephraim, because remember the lands were they portioned off the lands. So the northern side of the land was given to the northern kingdom. For obvious reasons. Verse 24, and he took all the gold and the silver and all the vessels that were found in the house of God with Obededom, and the treasures of the king's house, the hostages also, and returned to Samaria. And Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, lived after the death of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel, 15 years. Now the rest of the acts of Amaziah, first and last, behold, are they not written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel? Now after that, the time that Amaziah did turn away from the Lord, from following the Lord, they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent to Lachish after him and slew him there. And they brought him upon horses and buried him with his fathers in the city of Judah. Let's go back. 2 Chronicles chapter 14. And we'll just finish this part. Second Kings. I'm sorry. Yep, we'll just finish this part. Second Chronicles. Why do I keep saying Chronicles? Let me just type it. Second Kings. Do as I type, not as I say, because I'm saying it wrong. Second Kings chapter 14 and verse 12. So let's pick up what we just read in Second Chronicles. Second Kings chapter 14 verse 12. Same account. And Judah was put to the worst before Israel. The southern kingdom was put to worse against by the northern kingdom, and they fled every man to their tents. And Jehoash, king of Israel, took Amaziah, king of Judah, the son of Jehoash, the son of Ahaziah, at Beth-Shemesh, and came to Jerusalem, and brake down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim unto the corner gate 400 cubits. And he took all the gold and silver and all the vessels that were found in the house of the Lord and in the treasures of the king's house and hostages, and returned to Samaria. So Joash spoiled the southern kingdom, and they took hostages and all of the silver and the gold and took it back to Samaria. Verse 15. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoash, which he did in his might, and how he fought with Amaziah, king of Judah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? What we just read in 2 Chronicles 25. And Jehoash slept with his fathers, meaning he died, and was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. And Jeroboam his son reigned in his stead. And Amaziah the son of Joash, king of Judah, lived after the death of Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel. Two different kings. And the rest of the acts of Amaziah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? Now they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish, Amaziah. But they sent after him to Lachish and slew him there, and they brought him on horses, and he was buried at Jerusalem with his fathers in the city of David. So we're going to stop right there. Where King Amaziah just died. Joash, same thing, died. So we're going to pick up at 2 Kings chapter 14, verse 21 next week. I told you it was a lot of history. There was a lot going on in chapter 14. And then from 15 moving forward, it's going to be a lot of history because we're going into the Assyrian captivity. And so there's going to be a lot of history and a lot of reading. So just marking your Bibles, marking your notes. That when we come back, we're going to come back at verse 21. 2 Kings chapter 14, verse 21. All right. Yes. If it be the Lord's will, from here, until whenever. Yeah, I'll be teaching history in the AM. It's definitely been a spirit builder. I say that because you constantly having to stay on it. It's constantly keeping you motivated and accountable to continue to read and continue to study. So, hey, all praises. It's a lot. It's so much history that it's certain things I hadn't really read before that I'm the Most High's giving me the understanding to, and I thank the Lord that I'm able to get up this early and be able to deliver it to you all. So I'll praise to the Most High for that. So in closing, if y'all have any questions, definitely give me shoot me an email, Lemuel/Dallas at definitely at IsraelUnite.org. Lemuel/Dallas at IsraelUnite.org is my email address. Go to originalroyalty.com so that you can get your any kind of merchandise, backpacks, not mugs, thermoses, the cups. Y'all know what it is. IsraelUnite.org/donations. If you want to give alms, I know New York is trying to pay the building off. That'll be the first purchase that the school has made. Okay, Most High Christ bless you, Sister Misael. I'm pretty sure I said it right, Misael. How do I reset my PayPal? Honestly, I couldn't tell you offhand. I'm not really sure. I'm sorry. I don't know. But I'm sure if you go to like the help section on PayPal, you'll be able to go from there. Go to TorahForTheMostHigh.org. What I'm going to do, because I'm on the IT team as well, no problem, is I'm going to set up an affiliate link on IsraelUnite.org. So y'all will be able to click on the link on IsraelUnite.org, and it'll take you to Torah for the Most High, which is where you have the recordings for the classes. You have the notes. Brother Kafir and his team do an excellent job of making sure the website is updated, making sure that the notes are posted, making sure that the classes are up in a timely manner, so you're not waiting a week to get a class that was done. You're not waiting a week from now to get a class. The brother and his team does a great job of making sure that the classes are recorded timely. So, again, if you are not comfortable with giving physical money, like via PayPal or whatever, definitely go to IsraelUnite.org so that you can get merchandise, because all of that money goes towards the building. It also goes towards the bishops and the deacons' travel fund. So when they go and build up the different churches and the different schools in the cities, and I've seen it personally. Like, I just came back from Tallahassee Expo. So I've seen it firsthand, the work that they put in, So anyway, like I say, remember, 2 Kings 14:21 is where we're starting next week. It's going to be King Azariah that's going to be coming up in power over the Southern Kingdom. So, Lord's will, I'll see y'all back here next week. Most High Christ bless.